Maybe if you're like me, perhaps you've been wrestling with this deep philosophical question. A profound longing to understand and know. Can you hunt deer with a 6mm arc? Short answer, I would say yes. That's why I'm just gonna go with this. Yeah, right off the bat. Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Welcome back to the channel today. Thank you for joining me again. I am not going to pretend that I am some grizzled, wizened, old, experienced hunter of deers. I grew up hunting varmints, grew up hunting coyotes and stuff like that, birds, mostly birds. And I pretty much, when I was younger, if you didn't shoot it with a shotgun, it didn't need to be shot, you know? So I didn't really have an interest in deer hunting, and I didn't really have anybody teach me or take me. I went with my uncles a couple times, with my stepdad and that kind of thing, but I never really had anybody teach me the art of deer hunting. I didn't really start getting into it until about 8 to 10 years ago. So let's just caveat all of this with that's my experience. About 8 to 10 years of serious, on my own, hardcore experience. Or hardcore trying, lots of trying, with actually specifically hunting white-tailed deer. I learned how to long-range shoot on prairie dogs out in the grasslands of Wyoming, Nebraska, and Colorado. So I have a lot of varmint experience, I have a lot of long-range experience, but I haven't had a lot of deer hunting experience until about the last decade or so. So I can't sit here and pretend that I have 20, 30 years worth of shooting deer under my belt to say what's good and what's not. All I can do is share an experience that I've had with a cartridge like the 6mm arc, or well, specifically the 6mm arc, in shooting deer and the effect on game that I personally witnessed. So I'm just going to share that today, and this is 100% just an opinion based on the experiences I've had with it. So join me in talking about the ballistic effect of the 6mm arc, which is a .243 caliber bullet, on deer. I know there's a lot of people out there going to say, you know, you need more gun the better, blah blah blah, there's way more effective calibers for deer and that kind of stuff. And I agree, there's large calibers. I mean, the old dogs I grew up with all were 300 Magnum types. I mean, they if you didn't shoot it with 300 Magnum, it was not a valid kill. Whether you killed it or not, it didn't matter if it wasn't a 300 Win Mag, because you want to be able to blow the legs off this thing no matter where you hit it. You know what I mean? Drop it on the spot no matter where you hit it. Of course, I'm reminded of a video I recently watched by a YouTuber that shot a deer, a doe, a small doe with a 50 cal, and it still managed to run about 50 yards. There's no such thing as drop it on the spot calibers. Let's just put it out there, okay? Let's get the butt hurt over with right now. There's no such thing as the need for or the capability of a caliber to just be so magnificent in its ballistic prowess that it will drop a deer on the spot. Even the mere thought of it will cause does and fawns to faint or run in terror. I'm a strong proponent as a precision marksman, as somebody who really has dedicated themselves to the discipline of precision marksmanship and precision shooting. I'm a very strong proponent of, when hunting game, doing it at ethical distances and using proper bullets at proper ranges and putting them in the right spot, putting them exactly where you need them to go. Exactly. Not guessing, not whipping bullets and hoping for the best and hitting, you know, hope I hit something vital, maybe I'll hit something structural, but actually putting the bullet where it needs to go. So to my mind, precision, shot placement, and bullet trump everything. If you shoot it with an arrow, you can shoot it with a 6mm. And there's a lot of proof of that in the .243 Winchester. .243 Winchester is pretty much probably considered the ultimate starter gun for deer hunting. What most people get into is children or young shooters, that kind of thing. A .243 Winchester is light shooting, shoots a 6mm .243 projectile, usually in about that 90 grain weight, 80 to 90 grains, all right? Because that's kind of the acceptable deer cartridge weight, and what you'll find a lot of factory ammo for the .243, and that kind of range, 75, 90, 80, around there, pretty much below 100 most of the time, just because of the way the .243 is chambered and the barrel twist rates and the kind of the factory SAMI specs of that, going back a long time, 1950s, maybe 60s. So the .243 has been around a long time, killed a lot of deer. All right, so fast forward to the 6mm arc being introduced. I love hunting with DMRs, ARs. I love that platform more than any other. It's just the language I speak when it comes to shooting. I prefer it. I have bolt guns, I have precision long-range bolt guns and that kind of stuff, but I prefer a DMR. I prefer an AR style rifle that is kind of patterned after a special purpose rifle, or a DMR, a precision semi-automatic rifle. But I like a small frame versus large frame, because you can do the 308, you can do the 6.5 Creedmoor in an AR-10, but they're finicky, they're inconsistent with so far as functionality and stuff like that. You can get them great, you know, superbly accurate with great calibers, but lighter weight and a little more reliable is what I go for. So the 6 ARC, I built myself one right off the bat whenever they introduced the cartridge. I ordered everything I could find for brass and bullets and started playing around. And then I started playing around with the idea of hunting with it, because I know there's other people that hunt ARs, like with 6.5 Grendel 300 Blackout, successfully. So I started playing around with the idea of hunting with the 6 ARC. Now Hornady did introduce right off the bat, they introduced the 103 grain ELDX bullet in their 6 ARC loading for specifically hunting. I didn't buy any of those right away. I went straight to reloading. I didn't want to buy any factory ammo right off the shelf before trying to do some reloading on my own, because I just don't like buying factory ammo. Anyway, I bought the brass. I bought myself some of the 108 grain Burger Elite Hunters and started crunching numbers on them and started working up loads. And the load data I was getting was pretty good with those. And so I then went and got some of the 95 grain Burger Classic Hunters and worked up a few loads for those. I went into my first deer season with my rifle. It was, I think 2021 was the first year I went into the deer season with the 6 ARC. Before that I'd been using 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, that kind of stuff. So breaking it down simply, the only experience I have with deer hunting with the 6 ARC is 3 animals. 3 times my family has taken, between myself and my son, he took his first deer with it, which leads me to the point I'll come up later about it being a good cartridge for children, for young shooters. I took the first one with 108 grain Burger Elite Hunter at 50 yards, and I was pushing about 25 feet per second out of the 16-inch barreled rifle that I'd built specifically for hunting that area around the property we owned, because we owned property and we had deer come through our property, and we've been working on them for years, you know, kind of, you know, managing the habitat, trying to get them to come in really well. And I'd been hunting it for a couple years, but I hadn't been successful on our property. So the first buck I took in New Hampshire, which was my first buck ever, that's how new I am, was with the 6mm ARC and the 108 grain Burger Elite Hunter. I got it at 50 yards, right through the heart. He ran about 30 yards and collapsed. Dead deer. I'll take it. That's experience number 1. I got him actually heart and lungs, and I have some pictures. I won't post them, they're kind of graphic, but turned his heart into pizza and lungs into confetti. Before I go any too further, I'm going to admit though that I didn't get into the 6 ARC for hunting. I got into the 6 ARC when it was announced, I think 2018, for long range. And so by that point that I put it to work in the field, deer hunting, I probably had 2,000 or 3,000 rounds downrange on it already. Like, I just spent so much time, at least close to 2. But I could go back and calculate it between the 3 different rifles I built plus customer rifles. There were a lot of stinking bullets. So I knew the capability, I knew the accuracy, and I knew the ballistics. I had proven the ballistics out to about 1,000 to 1,200 yards at that point. So going into deer hunting with it, I was pretty confident in the cartridge, I was very confident in the platform, and I was very confident in the loads, because I knew their capability range and proven the dope on them at distance. So I knew what kind of velocities and foot-pounds I was getting of energy. Right, experience number 2 that I've had with it is actually my son. He was, when he was 10 years old in 2022, this is 24, 23, 22, yes, so 2022, he took his first doe on our property there in New Hampshire with the same rifle, but with a 95 grain Burger Classic Hunter. I wanted to try a little bit lighter bullet and see what that would do. He shot her at 50 yards, got her right in the heart. Again, lung confetti, and the heart had significant damage and shock and tear and tissue in the whole 9 yards. It was a beautiful shot. I freaking loved the kid. He was perfect for it, for what he did. He shot her straight dead where he needed to. Tucker, look at that. You're your first deer. Yes. Holy crap, you see that? That's so awesome. Yes. I can't believe you just did that. Dude, that was as clean a kill as I ever saw in my whole life, dude. So that was just a win anyway, because he was super confident with the rifle. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that It's a light shooting caliber. It's more than sufficient for game. It has long range capabilities, definitely for varmints and stuff like that, but it's pleasant to shoot. It's easy to shoot. My son loves shooting this cartridge on that rifle, especially from a tripod. You don't even feel it. It's like nothing. It's like shooting a 22 almost. Just the minimalist amount of kick. There's no intimidation for the shooter, especially somebody who's 10 years old and wasn't very big at the time. He's a lot bigger now. Crap, that kid ate a lot of moose and he ate a lot of deer in the last 4 years. He's gotten bigger. But so it's got the beauty. The cartridge really has that beauty about it, that it's really stinking easy to shoot and it's really easy to make accurate. And even out of something like a DMR where your velocities are going to be slightly lower than a bolt action, you have more than enough terminal performance on game out to reasonable distances, say like 300, 400 yards maybe. I probably wouldn't shoot at a deer or whitetail or whatever. Beyond that, varmints, I'd go all the way up to 1,000, 1,200 yards with it, no problem. But for a deer, ethical clean, consistent kills, probably would limit it to 300 or 400 yards, just based off the ballistic data. Say like expansion for the bullet, expansion velocities needed for the bullet and terminal damage needed for the animal. Shot placement and all that good stuff. My son shot that doe 50 yards. She ran about 76 yards. I noticed that the 95 grain Burger Classic Hunter didn't do quite as much tissue damage to the heart as the 108 did. The heart turned the top side, the 108 turned the top side of the buck's heart that I shot into confetti. It was gone. It was basically sheared off the top half, blew it, or the half it hit, whatever. I think it was the top half, the rounder end, that end, not the skinny end, but the rounder end. The 95 grain went in a little cleaner. Went in and out, pass-throughs, both of them passed all the way through. Definitely did significant damage to the lung tissue, but it wasn't as explosive as the 108 seemed to be. It wasn't quite as dramatic, the damage. So it was a clean kill. She ran about 75 yards and dropped, deader than stone. So, and it was a big animal. She was 165 pounds at least, because we dressed her out at 143. So roughly calculating 17 to 20% body weight reduction for the removal of the intestines and stuff like that, field dressing. She had to have been at close to 160, 165 animal. My buck was a 185. He was 185 pounds on the hoof. So they were both big animals, not small deer. The New Hampshire deer tend to be a little on the bigger side with smaller horns, and they both dropped deader than snot and didn't complain. Which brings me to my final and most recent experience deer hunting with a 6mm arc. 2 days ago. Here in Tennessee, we moved down here. This is actually my first year hunting Tennessee. And I rebarreled my DMR with a 20-inch ballistic advantage barrel because the ranges are a little bit longer out here. Even in the mountains, it's a little more open here. And I found that I didn't need as small of a gun or light of a gun, but I wanted something lighter weight because the mountains are a lot steeper here too. So I got the 20-inch ballistic advantage fluted barrel on this thing, lightened it up a little bit, added a couple inches of velocity, which gave me about a 60 foot per second gain in velocity on average across my hunting loads. And took it out. This last week was opening week of deer season, so I took it out a couple times last week looking for something to shoot. And Saturday morning I finally ran across this buck that I had been trying to get in archery season. I'd seen him twice. A nice 8-point, probably on the hoof about 170, so it's a decent sized deer. And I shot him with the 103 ELDX. Okay, so this is a 103 ELDX load I worked up using accurate 2520. And I'm getting pretty decent velocities, about 2,600 foot per second out of it. So it's not slow, but it's not blistering fast either. So it's above 2,600 is on average, let's put it that way, which gives me terminal performance out to about 400 yards for reliable expansion. So it's a win all the way around. I'll cut in a video here real quick of right after I shot him. Oh my goodness. I am so stinking jazzed right now. So it's about 9:30 in the morning. I'm still shaking, but I just got out the hunting spot about 8:45, 9 o'clock, and set up looking uphill into this bedding area. These 4 does come running out from my right and just taking off across this hill in front of me that I was watching. It's like, all right, something's chasing them, because it's kind of, we're in the rut now again. We're like in the 3rd phase of it or whatever. And wasn't 3 minutes later, this guy comes running out behind them. I stopped him on the hill. He's about 100 yards out, and put 103 grain ELDX from my 6mm arc right through his heart. Whew, this is my first Tennessee buck. Holy crap. Oh, he's beauty. He's an 8-point. He's a solid 8-point. Oh, right there. Look at that. He's a beautiful one. Maybe about a 3-year-old, I think. He's got good size on him still. He's not as, I saw him earlier in the season at the beginning of the rut in archery season. He was a little fatter. He's obviously been running them does. So I actually went back and calculated where I hit him versus where I was sitting. I was sitting on the ground, hunting on the ground into the side of this hill where I knew there was a bedding area / the travel corridor for these animals, and I'd been watching them for 6 weeks. So I had a good spot picked out. He came out chasing 4 does. They spooked out of the woods to my right. I knew they were over there when I came in, but they were just milling around, hanging out. Life was good. And I was waiting on them to walk out because I actually wanted to get a doe that morning just to get some meat in the freezer. So that's why I was trying out the 103 ELDX too. Let's see what it does on a doe. But they came out at a run, kind of worked up. And I was like, okay, something's got them spooked. I thought somebody had got this deer in muzzleloader season because I haven't seen him in about 3 weeks. But then he came out of the brush at the top after those does, maybe just curious as to why they were bouncing around because I couldn't get him to stop. And there were 4 of them and none of them would stop. They weren't running full sprint, but they were moving pretty good. They had something that spooked him. And I don't know if it was him, if he had come back over this other side of the ridge where I couldn't see and was kind of giving him a hard time. I kind of think maybe that was going on, that he was kind of harassing him. Because the one at the back, she kind of hesitated, didn't run off fully. So I think that's the one he was kind of after. He's trying to breed her and get her bred. She's the mama doe of the group. And so anyway, he comes out of this little bedding area, materializes, and I thought it was, at first he was so far away, it was 135 yards, so it wasn't super far away, but it was stinking cold, like 20 degrees, 21 degrees. I was just had gotten settled in, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes I'd been there, sitting in the spot, and he stopped or kind of hesitated and slowed down in this one little travel corridor opening I had between some trees, like just right in the perfect little 10-yard spot that I needed him to get a shot at him up to the side of this ridge. And so I whooped up my Vortex 2 to 10. I had it on about 5 power, got it on the shoulder and pulled the shot, and he jumped a little bit and then he ran. And so he started going downhill and over left into a neighboring property, towards a neighboring property to me. So I thought, oh crap, if he goes over there, I'm not gonna be able to get him because that neighbor's kind of a punk, and won't let you get a deer on his property if it falls over there. But we're not gonna go into that. So anyway, he started going, but then he kind of stumbled a little bit, and he looked like he was tipsy, and then he disappeared out of my line of sight, so I couldn't see him. I thought I heard him crash. So I waited about 20 minutes and just kind of let it sit and let it simmer. Got through the shakes, started shaking like a leaf. First time I've shot a deer in 2 years, so I was, or 3 years. It's been 3 years since I shot a deer. And I got to go on a moose hunt with Dad 2 years ago, and then my son got his doe that year, but I didn't get to shoot one of my own that year. So I was shaking pretty good, and I'm a novice deer hunter at best, so I was still really stinking excited. I started going up the hill after about 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes I gave him, and going to the last point I'd seen him before he goes into before the fence opens, and that's where the deer usually run through. They kind of jump at this area, and it's kind of torn down, so they go through there. So he had been going towards that direction, but a little downhill of it. So I got about halfway up the hill, and then I saw him laying there deader than snot, back up against a tree. He rolled, plopped over, and bink, downhill. He was dead. And that's, waterworks and all that good stuff, the emotions and all that. Okay, so examining the shot after the fact, got him downhill. It was a downhill drag to the truck, thank goodness, because he was pretty hefty. Got him downhill, gutted him out on a flat-ish area, and examined the heart and lungs. Got him right in the heart. Beautiful shot, because he was still moving when I shot him. He'd kind of slowed a little bit, but he was still getting ready to go again at that doe. And so I got him in the heart. It was a 135-yard shot. I will say, for as fast as it happened, might have been a little bit of luck involved. Definitely skillfulness, because I am confident with this rifle. I know what this rifle can do. I know how to shoot this caliber, and I'm super confident in it, but it all happened so quick when I shot him that I can't help but think there might have been a little bit of luck in the fact that I hit him straight in the heart. Because I was only on like 5 power, and it was 135 yards. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. The sun was just cresting up over this hill too, so it was going to be in my face shortly, and I was going to have to shift my field of fire to a different portion of the property when that happened, so that I wasn't looking into the sun. And the sun was skylighting his horns. That's how I was like, oh crap, that's a buck. And so anyway, got him in the heart. 103 ELDX, punched right through him. Okay, so I got clean path through both sides. Left a, you know, quarter size hole on the way out. It didn't seem to expand as much and do as much tissue damage as the 108. So there's kind of a compounding, I guess you could say, a correlation in bullet size to damage that I noticed in the 3 deer we've shot with it. 95, 103, and 108. The 108 definitely did more tissue damage, and I compared the videos and the photos I have of heart and lungs from both animals, and the 108 definitely did the most damage of the 3. It was the most expansive and most explosive, and they were all really 3 really stinking similar hits too. Like all 3 shots that we've taken on animal deer specifically with this caliber have all been in the heart and lungs. And so, and all kind of in a similar part of the heart too. So the top half. So I would say, you know, the 103 was more than sufficient. It dropped him within 40 yards. There was almost no blood trail though. So a very, very minimal blood droppage. If he had run a long ways, it wouldn't have been a clean hit, and I wouldn't, maybe I'd have got him in the lungs, so there would have been more blood or liver or whatever. But the exit wounds of the 6mm aren't super huge anyway, and if you've ever shot 243 at game, you know that as well. So 243 is moving a good 200 feet per second faster though, so they can do a little more disruptive damage on the way out. But overall, I'd say it's an extremely sufficient cartridge, extremely adequate, and really pleasant to shoot. Really, that's kind of the main point that I would say, yeah, the 6mm ARC is a great deer hunting cartridge if you are looking for something in a modular type of platform, semi-automatic or bolt action, that is extremely lightweight, extremely light shooting, is superbly accurate. Even the Hornady factory 103 ELDXs, which are actually loaded a little hotter than mine are, out of a bolt action, something like that, you can load them even hotter, and you're going to get yourself something close to 2,800 foot per second with a larger sectional density and a larger grain weight bullet than is average for 243. So you're going to be getting near 243 velocities, especially out of a bolt action, in a lighter shooting cartridge with a larger bullet. That's a win all the way around. It's something that honestly, honest to goodness, I think it could replace the 243 as the pantheon of small caliber deer cartridges. That makes sense? That makes sense to me. But I'm gonna hunt the crap out of this thing now. Going forward, I would say this is going to be my dedicated deer round. I may try other rounds just for the fun of it. I maybe wouldn't take it on. I would definitely pronghorn, yes. I built one for my dad that he pronghorn hunts with. I would definitely probably go after muley, but I might use a copper bullet just because they're a little denser and larger than whitetails. I wouldn't take it for an elk unless I had to, but still, I mean, with a copper bullet, say a 90 grain CX, going 26 to 2,700 feet per second, you put it in the heart, that animal ain't gonna know. He's gonna be dead. I'm just saying. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts. Comment down below. Have you hunted with it? Have you actually hunted? Is there anybody else out there that has hunted with the 6mm ARC for deer hunting? I know it works good on hogs. I know it works good on varmints and all those things, but have you deer hunted with it? And what has been your success story or failures? Have you seen an inadequacy in the cartridge in your hunting experiences? Thanks for sharing them with me. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to like, subscribe, share. I'm going to do a follow-up video to this in a couple weeks probably, or next week or so, about hunting specifically with DMRs, designated marksman rifles or special purpose rifles. What are the advantages to that? Y'all be blessed.